The room was filled with anticipation, but no one could have predicted the silence that followed. For weeks, Donald Trump had been building his image as untouchable, the man who could mock, laugh, and dismiss anyone in his way. He leaned back with that trademark smirk, confident that his laugh alone could reduce Barack Obama's words to dust. But in that moment, before the cameras, before the roar of the audience, Obama leaned forward, his voice calm yet piercing, and delivered a single line that cut through the noise like a blade. The crowd froze. Reporters glanced at one another in disbelief. Viewers across America stopped mid-sentence in their living rooms. That one savage line did not just challenge Donald Trump. It obliterated him. It was the kind of phrase that history would remember, not because it was long or complicated, but because it carried the weight of truth and the sting of finality. It was the sentence that turned laughter into shock, arrogance into silence, and a confident smirk into a stunned stare. Within seconds, social media erupted. Hashtags flew across Twitter, clips spread across every platform. News anchors interrupted scheduled broadcasts. The phrase echoed like a thunderclap, replayed again and again until it became etched into the national memory. America was not just watching a debate, it was witnessing a political earthquake triggered by a single line. Obama's words hit with the force of inevitability, as though they had been waiting for years to be spoken. Trump, who had dominated the room with laughter only moments earlier, suddenly looked smaller, caught in the shadow of the line that would define the night. The audience, split between gasps and cheers, could only recognize one thing. In that instant, the balance of power had shifted. The confrontation did not happen in a back room or in the shadows of politics. It unfolded in the brightest spotlight possible. A televised forum carried live across every major network. Millions were watching in real time. Millions more would see the clips replayed endlessly through the night. The stage was set with two of the most recognizable figures in modern American history: Donald Trump, brash and unpredictable, and Barack Obama, measured and deliberate. Trump entered the room radiating confidence, carrying himself as the outsider who had never bowed to the so-called elite. For his supporters, he embodied defiance, the man willing to laugh in the face of tradition and mock even a former president without hesitation. That smirk, that laugh, had already traveled across social media before the night was even over. To his base, it was proof of strength. To his critics, it was arrogance distilled into sound. Obama, by contrast, represented a different vision of power: calm, controlled, yet sharp when needed. He knew Trump's tactic well: provoke, dominate, pull the spotlight by any means necessary. And for years, the two had circled each other like heavyweight fighters, their rivalry stretching from campaign trails to primetime interviews. But here on this stage, the collision felt inevitable. The audience understood it too. They were not just watching two men. They were watching two Americas, one drawn to Trump's boldness, his rejection of convention, his refusal to play by the rules, the other loyal to Obama's steadiness, his belief in dignity and restraint as the true markers of leadership. Every camera angle, every glance, every word carried the weight of that divide. When the laugh came, sharp, mocking, echoing through the hall, it was more than just a sound. It was a declaration, a dare, a provocation hurled straight at Obama. And when Obama answered, not with a long speech, but with one cutting line, the collision of these two forces finally broke into the open. It was no longer just politics. It was personal. It was cultural. It was the embodiment of the nation's split laid bare for the world to see. Trump leaned into the moment, convinced the laugh had tilted the room in his favor. He spread his arms wide, drawing more attention to himself, and with the confidence of a showman declared, "This is why America doesn't trust politicians like him. All talk, no results." His supporters erupted with applause, feeding the spectacle. He had taken the laugh and turned it into a weapon, daring Obama to respond on his terms. But Obama did not rush. He let the cheers roll through the hall, waiting until the noise subsided, his expression unchanged. Then, with a steady tone, he replied, "Donald, If results mean bankrupt casinos, broken promises, and a trail of lawsuits, then maybe America needs less of your results and more of the truth. The words struck with precision. The audience gasped, some even rising to their feet. Trump's smirk faltered for a fraction of a second, the cameras catching it instantly. He tried to interject, "That's not true, that's fake." But Obama cut across, not raising his voice, just sharpening it. "You can laugh at dignity, but you cannot laugh at history, and history won't be kind to you." The line hung in the air like a verdict. The hall fell into a stunned hush. Commentators backstage scrambled to rewrite their notes. Social media feeds exploded with clips of the exchange, captions flashing words like obliterated, destroyed, demolished. It was no longer about who laughed first. It was about who had the last word. Trump attempted to claw back the momentum. He jabbed back with bravado. "The people want strength, not speeches. They want a fighter, not a professor." But the sting of Obama's line was already taking root. Every repetition on television, every meme online, every trending hashtag carried Obama's words like a banner. The laugh that once commanded attention now seemed like background noise to the phrase America could not forget. The divide grew deeper as the night unfolded. Supporters of Trump insisted he had shown defiance, that laughter and boldness were proof of courage. Obama loyalists declared it was the single most devastating counterpunch they had ever heard in politics. The clash had transcended the stage. It had become the latest battle in the ongoing war for America's soul. The atmosphere reached its breaking point. For minutes, the room buzzed with tension, commentators whispering into microphones, audience members torn between cheering and jeering. Then came the moment that froze everything. Obama, leaning slightly forward, delivered the single savage line that would echo across America. "The loudest man in the room is usually the weakest one." The words landed like a thunderclap. Gasps rippled through the audience, followed by a stunned silence so heavy it seemed to swallow the air. Trump, caught mid-retort, faltered. His expression hardened, but the cameras had already captured that flicker of shock, the brief pause when even he had no immediate comeback. Social media detonated. Within seconds, clips of Obama's line spread like wildfire. Millions of views, endless hashtags, waves of reactions flooding every platform. News anchors interrupted programming to replay the clip over and over, dissecting the tone, the timing, the precision of the strike. Pundits called it a knockout, the kind of political moment that redefined reputations. In living rooms across the nation, families sat stunned. For some, it was the proof they had waited for, that someone could finally stand up to Trump and expose his bravado as empty noise. For others, it was infuriating, a calculated humiliation of the man they believed embodied strength. But no one, not even Trump's most loyal defenders, could deny the impact of the line. Trump tried to recover, raising his voice, throwing accusations, pivoting back to his usual attacks. But the tide had shifted. Every word he spoke after that seemed smaller, less sharp, drowned out by the echo of Obama's phrase. It was no longer a contest of volume. It was a contest of resonance. And Obama had won it with a single blow. That night, headlines wrote themselves, "Obama obliterates Trump." Talk shows replayed the clash frame by frame. Editorials described it as the moment when one line silenced a storm. And for millions, it felt like watching history turn on the axis of a single sentence. The debate ended, but the line did not fade. It lived on, etched into the national consciousness, replayed endlessly across television screens, and shared millions of times online. In bars, classrooms, office hallways, the phrase was quoted with awe or with anger, depending on which side of the divide people stood. Obama had not just delivered a counterattack, he had crystallized a truth that cut deeper than politics. For his supporters, the moment confirmed his legacy: calm strength, precision over noise, substance over spectacle. They saw in his words the essence of leadership, a reminder that dignity could still triumph over mockery. They called it a masterclass, a final reminder of why Obama's voice still carried power long after leaving office. For Trump's base, however, the exchange became fuel. They spun the silence that followed as evidence of elitism, of a man too rehearsed, too polished, speaking down to the America they believed had been ignored. To them, Trump's laughter remained a badge of defiance, and Obama's line an insult to their vision of strength. And so the nation split once again, not over policy or law, but over identity. Was America defined by boldness at any cost, or by composure in the face of chaos? Was leadership measured in volume or in the weight of words? The clash became more than an exchange between two men. It became a mirror held up to the country, reflecting back a nation divided yet bound together by the intensity of the moment. And as the dust settled, one reality was undeniable. A single line had changed the conversation. Obama's words reminded America that history does not always turn on wars or elections. It can turn on a sentence, spoken at the right time, with the right weight. Trump's laugh had set the stage, but Obama's line had written the ending, and that ending left America stunned, caught between admiration and outrage, yet fully aware that it had just witnessed a moment destined to be replayed for years to come.